Good evening, friends. I am Alara of Sirius, and you're watching 1 Foot in 5D Wednesday Night Live. It's awesome to be here with everybody. Our guest tonight is Harald Kautz. He's an incredible scientist and truther, knowledgeable in many areas such as transhumanism, AI, chemtrailing, black goo, all kinds of stuff. Welcome, Harald.
Good evening.
It's great to have you on. I don't know, should I tell them the story about how I found you?
If you like.
Yeah, I didn't. So you guys might get kind of a funny laugh out of this, but for some reason, I thought Harold was had passed away. I don't know why I thought this, but apparently I thought this, and then I found him on Age of Truth, which is one of my favorite channels. I've told you guys that before. Anyway, saw him on Age of Truth, and I was floored because I didn't know he was still around. So I was so excited. I was like a little kid, and I couldn't wait to have him come on and talk about a few things. So yeah, it's super awesome to have you on, Harold, and I'm so glad you're still here with us, shining your light and sharing your information.
Live and kicking.
Yep. Um, I've told you this. I've followed your work for years, and just you're a very good speaker, and you have lots of important information. And yeah, this is super exciting to have you on. So anyway, I just have a couple things I gotta go over real quick, and then we can jump into it. I want to thank the super chats from last week. Our Cloaked Unseen World, Spearish Million, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, Suitorbug, Jerry, and White Hat, and a big thank you to all of you who have purchased merch. Thank you so much for your support. So yeah, Harold, um, how is the Great Awakening versus the Great Reset going over there in Germany?
I have no clue. I'm in my quiet spot on the countryside.
Oh yeah,
I go to Berlin for
I saw that. I
go.
saw that on Lucas's show. You seem like you have quite a nice, independent, sovereign setup there. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, we self-supply as far as possible, um, and try to gather friends around us who are willing and capable of going along with all the spiritual developments possible
Mhm.
in these times. And it's like growing in circles, like small inner core, and even the people who dropped out at a certain point and didn't want to speed up as we do with self-healing and things, they are still around and form a kind of outer circle where it's also interesting to see how they trigger each other with the leftovers of the old ages, and it's spiritually really exciting what's happening.
Are
But
you are
it
you
has
living
nothing
in a
to do
group?
with the
Is there a whole group of different couples and whatnot living on like in a communal status, or how do you have it set up there?
at the moment I again have two in the guest room and one in my living room, so it's getting quite dense at
Oh,
times. but but the overall concept is actually to get more buildings into the
right.
community, to have more space to give private sphere to everybody. But it
That's
things come and go. So
That's awesome. Well, a couple years ago, when I first started this podcast, I moved to Hawaii. I just took two duffel bags and I just moved to Hawaii. And it was so enjoyable just swimming in the ocean every day and talking to the animals and the trees. And I was in bliss, and then this pandemic started and unfortunately, I had to leave the island, you know. And it's been good in a way because I got my studio set up here and I've been able to do this. But man, I miss just being immersed in nature and just I felt so at one, one with the creator, and I loved it, and just having that. I always felt like I could survive out there too because there's avocados, there are gigantic ones that fall on the ground, and I don't eat meat, so and even
mm,
if you did, there's chickens and pigs that run around everywhere there. I lived like in the country, and I just felt really safe and secure knowing that I was gonna be okay no matter what happened, except right, it didn't quite work out the way I planned, but yeah, that must be a great feeling, kind of being away from it all. So I can imagine. So where?
yeah, the rest is
Go ahead.
the rest is kind of in complete madness. When I look into the rest of the world, it feels a bit like the Roman Empire when
Right.
they were preserving their food with lead, kind of taking grape juice and cooking it in a lead pan for an hour
Yeah.
till 1 gram got dissolved, and they poured it over the veggies, and they had it in winter. And at the end of the day, we're just celebrating orgies,
Right.
eating, puking, fucking, ending up in cannibalizing each other, and found that normal. And this is kind of what's happening to humanity,
Yeah.
just that we use Wi-Fi instead of lead
Yeah.
today. This is my impression I get of the rest. People get completely numb, unsensitive, uh, uh, lose their ability to think logical.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, this is the worst quality we have, logic. We have much better ones, but even this doesn't work anymore. So it's kind of weird.
Do you ever go? I mean, you must go into town, go into the city here and there to get stuff, right? What is it? What is the energy like there? Do you think there's more awake people that are kind of fighting to free humanity, or more asleep people? What does it seem like to you?
It depends on me, on my mood. If I go there with more caution and unsecurity, I might experience this huge fear field over the city. If I leave in a good mood myself, the resonance is different, and I just see people who couldn't care less about measures and rules, and it all feels like the big awakening happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really a matter of resonance, whom you attract, even on
Right.
a day trip to a city. So it can be this, can be that. Apparently, the timelines separate and get more and more distant from each other.
That's the harsh truth that I've come to understand too, but it's hard to face even when you know it sometimes, is that, your resonance is attracting, you know what I mean? It's where you're at. It's you need to be doing the inner work if you want your outside world to change a little bit. So we definitely
Yeah, yeah,
see eye to eye on
yeah.
that. So what I guess let's kind of go here first. Since we're going to go into the kind of the free energy topics and non-locality, unified field theory, that kind of stuff, what new technologies do you see coming online in our lifetime, especially in the area of communications?
In in communication, it's tricky question, because what I would like to see is that we completely go telepathic, because I know it's possible. It's for free. It's beautiful. It's giving you the full broadband of thought and emotion and everything if you are in compassion. So we don't need technology. I
Right.
don't need technology. I don't want technology. If you ask about possibilities, what could be done,
Mm-hmm.
then communication with gravitational waves would be the alternative to what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working in a team with Hartmut Müller for about 1 year. He's the guy that brought global scaling to the West.
Uh-huh.
And the technology was fully developed. They had like a direct analog um, speech contact from Austria to Australia with 66 milliwatts in real time, not even traveling with the speed of light, just connected by the standing gravitational waves. And clear sound, brilliant, no side effects on the human body. Until he ended up in prison for funny reasons. So we don't
Yeah,
get
that
that
tends to
technology.
happen with
Yeah, yeah,
with people that are
kind of,
developing alternatives. Yeah.
kind of. When it comes to technology, everybody above my pay grade always ended up either in prison or just disappeared or on the graveyard.
Right.
It's
What do
kind of
you
lucky.
What do you think it would take for us to get to that level of being able to fully embrace telepathy? Like, to me, we're too enslaved, or the majority of society is too enslaved and too stressed out, and I don't even know what the words are for it. But we need to be more free and have, I guess you could say, leisure time to seek the creator in order to get to that point where we can tap into that ability, right? How do you see it?
No, no, no. It just needs detoxing and healthy food.
Really?
All the poisons people push into their body, they completely deplete the neurotransmitters and the ability of the cells in the nervous system to really sense fine. When we go back to our true nature,
Mm-hmm.
eat healthy biological food, no meat, of course, because this is also depleting some of our capabilities. Then we return to a state like the wolves or the owls or whatever animals have as unique abilities. We come back to our own nature, and this is telepathic. It is divine. It is with extreme senses.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my environment, if people from outside come in and they just use my toilet, 3 days later, I still can read their disease from the smell they left behind.
Right.
It's, we are wolves inside as well if we want to. And all these things redevelop when we stop poisoning ourselves. So this is actually all it needs, detoxing and healthy food.
I've been going through that process myself, though I don't have it perfected, but I've greatly changed my diet in a dramatic way. And I mean, I know exactly, I never used to be sensitive to these kind of things, but I am now, to the point where that's what made me change my diet. Is one day I literally looked at a cheeseburger, which I used to love that stuff. I literally looked at it and I could see the energy that was attached to it. I could actually see it. And it was, it was not, it was a, unorganic. It wasn't, I think it was the torture on the animal that I was sensing, that I was picking up. I don't know. I just, one day I could see it and I just didn't want it anymore. It had nothing to do with some kind of moral decision I made. It literally, it energetically disgusted me and I just didn't want it anymore.
Yeah, mainly it's communication on cellular level. Because even if the animal is dead when it comes on the plate, you still have DNA in it, and the DNA has memory, it's crystalline, and there's communication happening on cell level. And if we open our body, this can strike us like a rocket,
That makes sense.
painful impact, both from the slaughtering procedure as of the lifelong torture
Right.
they suffer from being held like they're held. And this hit me for the first time when I was in a supermarket and didn't realize that I'm getting too close to the meat department. And it really kicked me off my knees, just from behind, from the back, this
Right.
cell communication establishing.
Wow, I never thought of it
Since
like
then,
that. I didn't have any way of describing it. You were able to just put into words what I didn't understand. But wow, that's cool. I never thought of it about like that. All right, so what are your thoughts? I know you wanted to share some things today that you told me you would like to kind of go public with, or some things is that in the Department of Free Energy, or is that just in the realm of physics?
realm of physics more in general.
Okay.
I mean, we can go through free energy with ease. That might be interesting as well. But actually, I was kind of tired about all those discussions in between humans about physics. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. I've got the
Right.
truth. You need to look at it like that way. And the real thing, if you really look into the meaning of things, there are different levels of reality you can look into. If you look onto the language, you just perceive logic.
Right.
And then you can start discussing things with other people, and one is wrong and one is right, because this is the quality of logics. If you perceive things on the level of meaning,
Right.
it's a completely different story. And if you look at physics and all those discussions from that angle, it's getting interesting, because people start with the premises. They decide what tool to use to look at reality, and then they look at reality, and then they get result. And what they can see with their tools depends on the choice of the tools. And when they choose different tools, they get different results and can look at different um, parts of reality.
Right.
If, for example, I take the engineering physics that we use to build our machinery,
Mm-hmm.
um, it is using in electromagnetic theory just the transversal wave.
Right.
If I look at the foundations of physics, I go back to Maxwell. He was basically looking for all possible solutions of the general wave equation to describe electromagnetic phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up with transversal, longitudinal, and scalar waves as possible solutions.
Right.
But the longitudinal and the scalar got lost because it was hard to measure them back then, and nobody needed them in engineering
Right.
because they didn't have effects to describe. So it disappeared from the theory just to make calculating easier.
Right.
And then people just forgot about it. And basically they tried to drive their car on one instead of on three wheels. And because of that, they cannot see all the things that are connected to the other wave patterns. So the choice of the tool is completely limiting
Mm-hmm.
the reality you can see and describe. And then you have a discussion between somebody that says, well, we do have free energy, and somebody says, no, the law of conservation of energy doesn't allow it. And it's completely stupid because they are looking from different premises onto
Right.
the same matter. And of course, they get different results. Um,
So,
and
go
we
ahead.
might go we might go through all different fields of physics and just have a look at what premises do you take, what is the perspective you look at things,
Right.
and then you understand the result you get. And then we do not have any limitations and we do not have any discussions anymore if things are possible or not. We can just choose what we want. This was kind of the approach I thought about taking.
It makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, there's, like I just kind of was explaining a second ago, a whole nother reality opened up to me. I would say after I woke up, I don't know how to describe that to people. I think it's just a, I mean, you could probably describe to me in more scientific terms than I can, but it may be an energetic shift, call it a resonance change, whatever. Whatever happened, I all of a sudden, the way that I perceive the world now is completely different from the way I did before. I rely much less on the five senses than I did before, and I'm more tuned into my intuition and to, uh, you know, my third eye and all these sort of other, which essentially isn't that what is when you see images, things pop in like that, is that's just scalar basically, right?
Both scalar and longitudinal. The third eye does both.
Right.
Um, it's I don't know how far people know how the organ works. It looks like a normal eye. If you make a crosscut of the third eye of the pineal gland, it
Right.
looks very much the same as a normal eye, but it does not get in touch with normal light. So the transversal part is not entering the brain. So all the wave patterns left are the longitudinal ones. They can travel through the skull, and the scalar ones that are non-local in any case. So just by understanding the pineal gland from that perspective, we realize that we can see uh, things connected to non-local interaction, which brings us to the conceptual plane. This is why we see symbols with the third eye.
Right.
This is why we are not so much connected to the now when we see. We can see the future, we can see the past,
Right.
um, because it is not connected with the with third option of processing scalar waves. Um, um, okay, it's getting mixed up a bit from the order. The definition of now in the scalar realm is anything that is in the same density as I am.
Okay, so can we go into densities and
Um,
dimensions a little bit, what the difference between the two are, and your understanding of that? Because I know there's a lot of confusion out there about that.
yes, we can do that. The question is where to start. Okay, dimension is like we have a point, we have a line, we have a plane, we have a room,
Okay.
and then we can go higher, but our imagination doesn't follow. This is because the structure in our body that is giving us the illusion of living in a universe is limited to 3D. We have three different types of nanocrystals in our body that process electromagnetic waves, gravomagnetic waves, and scalar waves. It's calcite, magnetite, and apatite. And these three different field types are sitting in a 90-degree angle on each other. So processing electromagnetics is giving us the illusion of a 3D in our body. It's not that we live in a 3D space. The capability of our body to produce consciousness fields while being incarnated is limiting our perception to 3D. It's everything that comes in is somehow by these crystals projected into a 3D reality. This is what our body does. It's not the universe we live in. Our body projects everything into a 3D. And then we have additional tools. And these additional tools is the mental body that is a future prediction machine. It gathers data and makes calculations of what likely future will we face. And we have the memory where actually it's mostly the formation of crystals that is building up in layers and layers and layers and layers, basically freezes a picture of past events in the energetic density of the past event. So if we want to remember something, our spirit just needs to basically get a little less dense, and then the resonance goes back to the crystal layer that was formed in this less density.
So,
And then
okay, go ahead.
we basically pick up the picture of what that was stored in this crystal. So it's like a reading unit that goes through layers of crystals to pick out the reality that was, or the consciousness that was, when the crystal was formed. This is how a body remembers. And this is kind of one of the things where we form the illusion of time, because we have memories and we have the future prediction machine that is
Right,
our mind. And
right.
with these two tools, we create the illusion of time. But again, it's only a function of the body. And
So,
before we start even start to understand physics, we need to see what of what we perceive and what we think we live in is a product of our body.
so what is the difference in your understanding? You're so good at explaining things between the human mind, what we think of as our brain. I call it a computer. You know, I think
Mm,
David Icke is right on point with that. I think
mm.
it's him that says that. So our brain computer and consciousness. What's the fundamental difference there?
Beautiful question. The mental field is just an electromagnetic expression of consciousness in this, mainly in this 3D. It's binary, or you have two binary fields crossing each other to make us to enable us to make logical steps, like if this and that, then this and that. So we can cross two polarities. This is all thinking. This is the mind, but it's embedded in a 3D structure. If I think about consciousness as the substance we are, as the beings we are, I can't stay in 3D. I need to understand that the heart chakra contains a singularity, that
Right.
we carry a little black hole inside of ourselves that connects us into higher dimensions.
Right.
It's like a wormhole, and through this wormhole, the true self, the being we are, basically looks into this reality to express itself and collect more intense experiences. This is why we incarnate,
Right.
because it's an extreme experience compared to just be spirit. So actually the point of observing is outside of this reality. The point of observing actually is also outside of time, because time is just a delusion that we create through our body.
Right.
And there's a secondary mechanism of time that we overlay with this quasi-physical time we construct in our consciousness, and this has to do more with recursive functions in mathematics. Like we have the expression of one moment. The moment is very important in physics. People think, because of this weird time concept we constructed, that the universe started at the beginning,
Right.
and then it goes on and goes and gone, with a big bang,
Mm-hmm.
and then it continues. But this is not how it works. Once we integrate scalar physics, we realize that we have electromagnetic radiation flowing both into the future and into the past. It's changing things in the future, it's changing things in the past.
So based on the now
And
moment
then the
changing it.
change,
Right. Okay. Go ahead.
yes, well, it's easy to see. We have a now, and then 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 we have a now.
And that
It's a
automatically
recursive pattern.
changes the future and the past based on that now timeline.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Every new now is changing both the future and the past, and then the changed future and the changed past send us packages of information back to the next now, creating the next now. So
Right.
this is where we see how the universe is multidimensional, because when you have something where our past is continuously changing as well, then you get this beautiful possibility of having creator moments, when from the spiritual realm,
Mm-hmm.
consciousness jumps into the material plane saying, okay, now I want a new civilization. Let's create a new civilization. And you start in a now, and it slowly materializes and creates its own past as well.
I feel like that's what we're doing now collectively. I really do. I feel it, you know? It may not play out
Already,
the way as quickly as
yeah.
we would like, but that's having expectations, I know you know this, Harold. Like, when you have expectations, that's like a thing people have to let go of. It never serves your highest and best good to have expectations. Just to have faith. But I definitely feel that whole shift happening. I don't know exactly how we're going to get there, but I know we're going to get there. I know we are getting there. So
from my perception, it's this is not physics. This is just what I feel. It's like all the stories we lived through close now. There's even a date to it. It's somewhere in
that makes sense.
2027, 14th of February, where all the big cosmic cycles close. The short ones and the long ones and the super long ones close exactly on one date. And when all the stories, all the narratives are closed,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that can be harvested from this as growth of consciousness, spiritual experience is harvested, then we really can take just our soul substance and decide in what type of new narrative we want to continue. And this is exactly how you start the new cycle, with what you are. And of course, with the goal, what do I want to experience next?
I just want to say thank you to Real Red Pill Girlfriend for your super chat. Appreciate that. Yeah, we're perpetually creating the next now. That gives me so much so much hope, and I do feel that on an energetic level. So it's wild to hear you describe that. That it's just, where did you get that date from? That all is, so that's all when all the old timelines collapse and we converge into this new future we've all agreed upon.
The date comes from a friend of mine, a journalist I used to work with,
Yeah.
and I know that if he is doing some research, he's doing a decent job. So I just trust him on that point.
So
He,
Harold, there's a lot of misconceptions, I think, about ascension. So this is a topic I definitely want to ask you about, since we're talking about consciousness and densities. So in my estimation, you know, and I've done a lot of research, but it's also something I just feel it's going to be a shift in consciousness, correct? Like I've already experienced that on some level, but this will be like a shift of the mass consciousness, correct? Can you kind of describe how the way you see that based on the research you've done, how that plays out?
okay, maybe first the foundation in physics.
Okay. Okay.
What is actually defining the entire game and games we play, and the basic mechanics of a universe, is this one core thing, which is scalar potential. It is the sum of annihilated field structure. If you have one wave and a second wave, and the waves are running exactly opposite, they annihilate each other and press the energy content of both fields into the quantum vacuum, creating more scalar potential. And the entire fabric of space-time is just scalar potential, wave patterns that create the material plane out of them.
So that's what
So
dark
the
matter is. That
fundamental
what dark matter is,
no,
essentially?
dark matter. No, dark matter is a hoax. It's
Right.
nonsense.
But what they
They
call
could
dark
not
matter.
describe. No, it's what they call the Dirac sea of energy. That would be a correct term.
Okay.
Dark matter was just introduced because they needed some additive to the equations
Right.
to make them work.
Right.
So they just invented something. Um, um, So the scalar potential development and motion patterns in scalar potential are what actually drive everything. Now you get an exchange between a source and a sink of scalar potential when the field structures of the two align in circular angular relationships. So if for example we have the big black hole in the center of the galaxy, and then the sun is flying in all funny patterns around the arms of the galaxy. And at a certain point, the angular relationship between the axis of our solar system aligns with the axis of the galaxy. Then we have kind of fitting angles in between each other. And this allows an energy transfer non-locally from the central part to the solar system.
Okay.
And this would be just a moment where our entire system is recharged like a battery.
Okay.
And the total amount of scalar energy of life force, in a way, if you want to call that, is just recharging, and things start to express themselves in a higher precision. If we know this from our health. If we are low in life force, if we don't eat, if we are psychologically stressed and we lose coherence internally, we completely deplete from life force, and then also our body gets sick because it doesn't manage to self-organize anymore,
Right.
because there's not enough energy in us to keep up the order of energy. And now just imagine that all of us, the entire planetary grid of consciousness, of beings, of nature, is recharging itself. We will find back to our order because there's enough energy present to make this happening, to force systems to perfect their order again. At the moment, we are still a mess. We are completely in disorder. And this is the force that is driving the spiritual development towards a point where everything is back in divine order. And
It's
there's no way around it.
it's interesting you say that, because I had a vision of this situation that we're going to go through, and it was very much like what you described. It was like a charge. There was a charge that went through. It was a vision I had. It was like it was very hard to describe, and I couldn't see my body on the ground. I don't know if I lost my physical vessel, but all of a sudden I could fly, I could do whatever. And there was a charge, and it seemed like it came from the whole solar system. It was like it zapped, like when you recharge a heart, when you restart a heart, it was like that. But the whole solar system did it, and all of a sudden I could fly, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I don't know why I was given that vision, but it definitely lines up with what you're talking about.
Yeah, what I heard is people saw the event to come, like a burst coming out of the sun,
Right.
a wave of energy that is traveling through everything and completely changing the DNA of all living beings to something completely else. And because DNA is the core element in the building of realities, it's
Right.
kind of the center point of all things is DNA, if you look at it from the fractal order. This is also going to change the entire topology of reality. If my DNA changes, my body changes instantly, because it's all an expression of
Right.
DNA.
That makes sense. Then we can manifest a
and
new
this,
body. We have a new body instantly.
yes,
Right.
yes. And the thing I kind of expect, because we see people developing in all sorts of directions at the moment. There are some who completely go into a fear-based universe and get prepared for the worst of duality games I can even imagine, like this
Duality games.
trail down to the biorobot existence. And other people completely wake up to unity consciousness and open up to the divine, and things just flow through them, and they sit aside and observe their own lives, laughing their heads off. You know what's possible if once you surrender to the divine again. So it doesn't look like that all those people will end up in the same reality, because it doesn't match anymore.
Right.
So what I would expect, that by who we are, this also defines our DNA. It's kind of going both ends. The DNA is defining our reality. What we make out of our reality redefines our DNA.
Right.
When this wave hits, people will have different resonances with the wave, and will also be changed to a different degree.
Right.
So what I expect at the moment, what we can see is that this difference in quality can clearly be seen in the difference between the astral planes. Humans that don't have their root in duality anymore, that are close to unity consciousness, or very, very aware of spiritual realities, if they look into their astral realms, which is this non-local quality, or an expression of a non-local quality, they don't see demons anymore. They don't see archons anymore. They don't travel to hell-like places anymore. Everything is beautiful out there. Other people still encounter those entities. And this is because they are living duality as a pattern, as a spiritual principle.
So it's your
And you
understanding the
can't,
archons go away? The archons go away as that shift happens? They're only an experience of duality?
they already left for certain humans. I don't see them anymore, for example. And I really, for
Right.
years, I believed they are completely gone, vanished, taken out by the divine. But it was me who took myself out of their realm.
Right.
So they disappeared only for my eyes in my astral plane. And I just recently discovered, it was really weird, that I had a client with a really, really, really sad and cruel background, coming from bloodline families, being MK Ultra style, tortured in childhood. And I normally I used to perceive entities when I came across. And I spent 2 days with this lady, and I didn't see any entities. And at the end of day 2, she shared her art with me. And just looking at her pictures she painted, I had to realize that she's completely full with snakes. She was breeding snakes, actually. So in her astral plane, everything was there. In mine, I couldn't see it anymore.
Right.
And at the first moment, it really panicked me, because I thought I was wrong with my perception, that the satanic realm disappeared.
Right.
But I was not wrong. Apparently, it just disappeared from my astral plane, and other astral planes still have it. And it's logical, because not everybody is going into unity consciousness. Some people decide to continue with duality games. And you can't have a duality game without a satanic
Right.
consciousness grid supplying the second part to the divine. And this is
Right.
the definition of duality. So, of course, it can't disappear.
Right.
But single humans, of course, can evolve out of it, and then it disappears. And definitely after this event to come, what I see is that what has found to each other on the astral, all the humans that have found each other forming one coherent astral plane, will also be pushed into one coherent reality afterwards. And
Physical
this is
reality.
the event
Right.
splitting the timelines into physical realities.
So it starts in the astral plane.
Yes, it's already happening in the astral plane. This is my observation.
Okay, that makes sense.
Less and less people. I don't say it's going to be impossible to swap from one astral plane to another, but less and less and less people will make the shift
So there's
towards
several
the
astral
event.
planes. There's several different astral planes. There's
I
not
would
just
say 4 at the moment. I
okay.
have the feeling we do have 4 different ones.
How many are higher and how many are lower astral planes?
Higher and lower is relative. I see on the highest one I see is pure unity consciousness.
Right.
Which means it's just expression of the divine, no judgment anymore,
Right.
nothing subconscious left. Every experience is just worth being in compassion with, nothing else. Especially this quality of being non-judgmental is the strongest quality I feel in other humans that I think that are going there. Then there's one, this would be the 6th density. If I look into the 5th, the one below, I would see there all the people who actually realized that neither service to self nor service to other is a game you can play to the end. So that they are basically on the way to unity consciousness. Having different paths to heal. So, but they will still face each other in a form of duality, but not the really cruel form like in the fourth density, where the difference between the 4th and the 5th is the concept of self-responsibility. If I'm in the 5th one, things are not perfect, but I know that everything that is not perfect is not perfect because I am not perfect.
Right. The concept of
I need,
knowing that you're projecting what's out here.
yeah,
And it's not them,
yeah,
it's you. Right. It's a deep one
yeah,
to get. You really have to process that concept to start to get rid of the
Yeah.
subconscious programming that everything is out here and not in here. I mean, it's a process. I'll say that.
Yeah. What's connecting us to that is I experience what I experience because I am who I am.
Mm-hmm.
With this sentence, we can take for everything full responsibility. If I wouldn't be who I am, I would experience something else. So if I don't like what I experience, I need to change myself to experience something else.
Right.
This is the core idea of fifth density, but it's not all solved yet. So it's still in the process of evolving towards unity consciousness. While in the fourth density, it's more like everything is shit and ugly and painful, but it's the other one's fault. It's never my fault. So it's completely lost in drama interaction and perpetrator victim rescuer games. And third density is more like newborn souls for whom everything is a completely fresh experience and they want to taste everything and they don't even make a difference. Everything is exciting, everything
Right.
needs to be experienced, and they would try the perpetrator as they would try the victim on the spot, just to make a first experience with the concept of duality. So this is kind of the third one.
How,
These are the layers I see.
how do you see our concept of Satan? Like, I don't know. I've always thought that it's some kind of it's some kind of AI infection into the holodeck. That's how I've always seen it. Like it's the opposite of the divine, which means it's got to be some sort of, like I said, like almost like a virus in the divine blueprint. Like, how do you?
Yes, no. It's very close to the quality. I see Satan as an equivalent to Gaia.
Okay.
But Gaia is a healthy planet.
Right.
Satan is a demiurge. A demiurge is a non-incarnated planetary spirit. And like humans, planets get traumatized due to what they experience. And Satan lost his entire biosphere. Maybe the entire planet was destroyed due to the species living on top of it, playing around with wormholes, messing with physics, destroying everything.
Right.
So he is like a non-incarnated human that doesn't really know where to go to be reincarnated, and instead grabs the body of his neighbor as an attaching spirit, trying to take it over. And this is the satanic principle. It's a demiurge, a non-incarnated planetary spirit that attacks other planets and tries to steal the biosphere of them.
Right.
And the stolen biosphere is it includes the species, the highly developed species living on a planet.
Right.
But it can't include the planet because the planet is incarnated with Gaia. Our planet is incarnated with Gaia at the moment. So Satan cannot take over the crystalline empire of Gaia. So he's trying to create his own crystalline empire, which we know as computer technology. All those chips around, the smart dust. It's a crystal-based biosphere we created for Satan to incarnate into.
Interesting. I never thought about it like
Yeah.
that. Who's spraying us, Harold? Is it humans following orders, or is it not humans? Who's spraying us? This is the biggest mystery, is who is actually spraying us. And
Guess
why?
it's a mix. It's definitely humans. Definitely we have different human agendas spraying. We have the military.
Thank you, Christina. Go ahead.
The military spraying basic parts of smart dust like aluminum oxide, barium, strontium titanate, which they need for radar technology.
Okay.
This is just the normal fuel additives going into JP-8 military jet fuel that then, when burned in the engines, produce nanoparticles to ionize the atmosphere. This is one part. This is done by humans. Then we might have CIA-owned fleets like Evergreen International was once upon a time, to spray especially transhumanistic technologies into the countrysides, water collection areas for drinking water, to pollute the drinking water with certain whatever quantum dot chemicals, whatever is needed for the transhumanistic attack. So this is also human. But then at certain points you find airplanes in the sky that spray.
Right.
And if they leave the plasma layer, suddenly a wing disappears. So we seem to have alien involvement.
Right. You think the
Out
aliens
things
are
in
just
the
giving
sky.
the orders, or do you think they're actually going up there with their
No,
ships disguised as planes and they're spraying us too?
yes, yes, yes.
And who would be doing this?
Because
The Draco? Or other reptilian
good,
species of not of
good,
a positive?
good question. I don't know, so I don't want to blame anyone when I don't have precise knowledge, but definitely some of the evil-minded ones, like the small gray, the Dracos, that
Right.
have been in bed with the US government for ages.
Right.
That would fit the description. But I don't know what they spray. I have no clue. This can go into the direction of genetic modification.
Well, what are the, I see,
That you
I've
have.
noticed when when you start paying attention and looking up, I've noticed that they'll spray their layers of stuff, right? And then it seems like they're doing something while we're asleep, because when I'll wake up, the pattern will be like in a, it's like, it's like, how do I describe the pattern? It's just a very distinct pattern, like they're hitting it with something, like they're hitting it with something. I don't know how else to describe it. Like a sound, something, or I don't know. I don't have the science to describe it, but it turns into this pattern. It turns into this unnatural pattern by morning. And it's not doing that on its own. They're using some kind of technology to make it do that. Now, do you have an understanding of what that is that I don't?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
In general, once you have a plasma cluster or a plasma, particle clusters in the air that form a plasma, you can control that plasma with radio signals. So what you need is an antenna system that can send directed beams to any area that
Right.
is capable of controlling that plasma. And
Right.
then once you control the plasma, you can, in the air, form mirrors and lenses out of the plasma to redirect any beam sent. So at the end of the day, with these antenna system, you get a full 100% control over energy density and plasma density in the sky. This is how they create their weapons, like up concentrating the energy of a nuke in one spot in the air is no problem when you can use mirrors and lenses for electromagnetic wave patterns. You can up concentrate that on one spot so they can create a nuclear explosion out of a basically um, scalar energy density that gets higher, exponentially higher and higher and higher in one spot in the sky to take out whatever rockets that come in or to destroy a city. You see that, maybe you remember, there was a bank building in China like 2 years ago that exploded. And whenever you see war against buildings on the ground, you have a terrorist attack to put a building on fire. And once you have flames, you have plasma.
Like all
And
these
once you have
explosions we
plasma,
saw last year all over the planet.
whenever you have a double explosion, like one explosion igniting a fire, and then suddenly it goes boom in a bright flash of light,
So the one in
and
the
the
Middle
entire
East,
thing.
remember the big one? That one did that, right? It kind of exploded, and then there was a huge explosion after that.
Yeah,
It
there
was
was
Beirut,
footage
right?
of a,
Was that Lebanon? That was
yeah,
Lebanon. Okay.
same in Beirut, Lebanon, same pattern. Although in Beirut there was the signature of a rocket coming in on some of the videos, but that might
Right.
be faked as well. Technically, it's no problem once you have a fire on the ground to up concentrate scalar energy with those antenna systems into the
Interesting.
flame plasma, and then introduce any amount of energy you want to introduce. Maybe the rocket was just CGI technically put in afterwards to cover the real technology used, because when you know what technology is used, you know who did it.
That's why I've learned to really try to tune in it and listen to my intuition on things, because you never know when I come across so much data, and you never know what you're looking at, if it's contrived or not, and trying to sort through all that with
Mm,
your logical mind,
mm.
it's endless and it's very frustrating. But if you start to just tune into something else, then I think it's easier to sort out the truth.
Yeah, this pattern of double explosions is quite funny because it's repeating
Right.
far beyond any statistic likelihood.
This is just making me think too. I did a lot of research. I'm trying to remember what event was. I look at so much stuff, but there was some plane that was shot down. Was it a year or two ago? But I started really doing research into those people that were on that plane, and it appeared to me, based on the research I did, that they were doing research into the topic that we're talking about. Now,
Mm.
uh, I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but that's the way it appeared to me. That I really looked into these people, and they were all kind of interconnected. And it seemed to me, I don't know the
Mhm.
scientific jargon probably in the way that you would understand it if you were to look at what I'm talking about, but it looked to me like the
Mm.
research they did and what they worked on was the stuff we're talking about. So, how that factors
Yeah.
into that plane getting shot down, if I'm on the right track or not, I don't know. But that's what was occurring to me while you were telling me about that. That's why I was kind of like, whoa, it's kind of heavy. So,
Yeah, just for those into technology, the antenna type you need is phase array antenna, and you've got the big military ones like HARP is a phase
so
array
HARP could do
antenna.
it.
Was the big one. HARP can do it. Then all the small antenna systems, there are lots of them underwater along the California coastline. Um,
Really?
yes.
I didn't
Just
know that.
check Google Earth, and if you find like chessboard structures where they mounted things on the ground or dig holes to have all the antennas on the same level. You can see this as like chessboard patterns in Google Earth. There you have those underwater antenna systems, and you have them deployed with 5G. I mean, you have the Gemini radar chip built by Raytheon. It's also same type of antenna technology,
Yeah.
phase array. It's deployed with the 5G towers, and it's meant to make the exactly same thing with single humans. So it's all one thing actually. There's no difference in technology, just that the grids are getting more and more fine-tuned and capable of addressing single humans, single targets, small targets.
Right.
Um, but it's one and the same setup. If you don't see who is doing it, just in the United States, check for sensor. Um, um, Sensor, what was the full name of it? Spectrum Efficient National Radio Surveillance. This is the official term for the program rolling out the um, um, antenna technology and the surveillance on the US populations. And this connects to the sentient world simulation. So actually everyone is spied on and everyone has his avatar in their big computer simulation of reality. And at a certain point, if you don't watch out what you eat,
You'll
They
become
can
part of their
swap the
simulation.
direction.
Oh man.
Yes, yes. They just change the readout to write in direction of the signals, and then the signals take over your consciousness. If you are personality based, this is the entire thing about TIs. TIs are people who are not predictable. And once they realize that the avatar in the world simulation doesn't do the same thing as the real human does, they realize, oh, this guy is not based on personalities. He's still a divine entity that is unpredictable in behavior. And then they need to traumatize you to force you to develop personalities that get predictable.
Wow.
Personality is always predictable because it's based on reptilian brain activity.
Fascinating.
But if you live from your heart, you're not predictable because the heart is a 12 star. It's non-linear
I know I,
from the
I
point
know
of physics.
I know a TI that very much lives in her heart and does not let what they do to her control her, and she seems like she's beat it. She tries to teach others how to beat them, and that she's just she's a very spiritual person, and it seems like she's really managed to overcome this tremendous obstacle of being a TI through just being in the heart center, like we were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a nice training program for everybody, trying to defeat the avatar in the sentient world simulation by just doing completely unpredictable bullshit.
Right?
It's going to completely mess up their computer program.
That's really deep what you just said, though. I'm trying to really take that in. Like, if that's not a reason to seek the creator, you guys, and live your life properly, I don't know what is. You want to wake up one day and you're in the simulation.
Yeah.
Or
But on
I want to be in the
the other
creator
hand,
simulation.
it's not that I'm complaining about these realities.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it is exactly what spirits need to continue with their learning process.
Right.
There's a quite old how do you call those? It's too late for me to really have my brain properly working. The
Right.
structures and the fields, when suddenly something in a cornfield appears that can be seen from a plane as a
Crop
beautiful
circle.
symbol, crop circle.
Yeah.
Crop circle. So there was a crop circle a couple of years ago that actually displayed in a symbolic way the splitting of the timelines in their different qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And the sixth one is just taking a free path into their new reality. The fifth one is touching an area of binary field structures. So it seems to go through, mostly through some sort of matrix controlled consciousness realm, leaving only one side path or bypass for spirits who can escape from that matrix consciousness reality. And all the lower timelines are completely going through a phase of matrix control. So it seems to be somehow in the divine plan to have the lower densities just cross through this transhumanism created phase of completely controlled consciousness as a way to find a path into the new reality, into the
Yes.
new
Yes.
so it's all fine.
Yeah.
It's all fine. The only thing that every single human can take this choice of in what sort of reality will I end up and what do I need to do with myself to evolve to the point where I really get into the reality I really want to experience. And
Yes.
every choice is fine. If somebody is in for duality games, if somebody needs to be the hero and the victim and the
Right.
perpetrator for another 20 lifetimes, he would be completely in the wrong place when he ends up in unity consciousness. So
Right.
it needs the decision from the heart, where do I want to go? When I did this test on myself, kind of asking myself the question, or checking the possibilities, I'm going to continue in duality, my entire heart went into cramps, and I thought I was dying from a heart attack because my
Right.
system was in so deep resistance against this idea. And when I said, no, I would like to go into unity consciousness, everything relaxed, and I had a beautiful smile on my face. So I knew my answer.
Yeah.
And when you know your answer, you can find your path to the desired reality and leave the others with whatever they want.
Right. You're right. We have to
And the only
have
thing,
seen that path. We have to see it play out in order to make the decision what we want.
yeah,
I would never have gotten so polarized towards the natural and the organic and the divine. Would never have gotten that way if it weren't for seeing and experiencing such ugliness in the world and such,
yeah,
there's no way. So I know this is part of the process of soul evolution, and it's for a reason. It's designed that way for a reason. As
mm,
messed up as it is sometimes, and it may seem horrible. Suiterbug has a question for you. I would be curious to see what he has to say about the ley lines. Thanks, Alara. Great show tonight. Thank you, Suiterbug, for your super chat.
okay, ley lines contain the Gaia black goo. So it's like the brain liquids of our planet.
Oh, the
And
positive black
are,
goo, the brain, or the Gaia's blood
yeah,
flows through those ley lines just like veins.
yes.
Oh,
And
interesting.
there are like 4 different types of black goo. They're
Okay.
not even black. One is red, one is golden, white to golden. They are based on different metals. The organic part is quite similar, but the question is what M state matter is in it. And you have one that is gold iridium based, and this is kind of the gold one. So if you go into researching ley lines, you will find those different types of ley lines as well. Same number of different ley lines as you have different goos. And from the exit points of the ley lines or crossing points of the ley lines and the energetic exit points, the planet has an aura that is going into outer space that is also conscious. So it's quite similar to a human body with a bloodstream and
Right.
the part of the spirit that is incarnated and entangled to the nervous system, and the auratic part that is out there that contains the live emotion, not emotion, the live feelings
Can you
when they are.
explain to them a little bit what the difference between the alien black goo is, the negative stuff, because I know a lot of them may not know, and the positive black goo, the stuff that's the blood of the planet that you were describing.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. This connects to the Satan story we had before. Black goo in itself as a substance is just the carrier of planetary consciousness. Crystals are the mass storage, and the liquid is kind of the brain, the thing that is processing consciousness in the now. And the alien black goo appeared as part of a meteorite swarm that hit the planet. So it's definitely not from Gaia, but it's a very similar substance. So logic tells me that if I have black goo flying in with meteorites from outer space, that this must be the consciousness of a different planet. And if it's still alive, if it kind of lands somewhere in a desert and people find those rocks and the rocks talk to them and tell them, I need blood and fire sacrifice, kill your neighbor tribe,
Right. That
kill
makes
them
sense.
to the last man. I know that this entity is completely disconnected from the divine and
Oh.
is hungry for life force, because what happens if you have sacrifices, especially blood and fire sacrifice, that the nature you kill, the beings you kill release all their life force, and then this entity can absorb the life force. And this is what every single black magic cult originates from. Tribes, people finding alien black goo that came from open space, talks to them, tells them we want sacrifice.
Right.
And
That's how it assimilates entire groups of people on planets.
Yeah.
So it came from a service to self planet, a negative planet. The goo came from there. That's so interesting. Wow. Okay, let's see. Somebody has another question for you. Okay, so where did it go? I just had it. Okay. Let's see. This comes from Dennis Lindsay. Does orgonite disrupt the antennas phased array? I assume, she says.
I heard so, yes. I never tested it myself. I do it differently. The best way to get out of the wave salad we're surrounded with is just ascending a bit.
Right.
Getting so high in vibration that we basically carry our own hyperspace around us.
Right.
And daily meditation does that. Like when you manage to access your inner heart chakra and get access to the flow of love from the inner heart chakra, learn to pull it through the outer heart chakra into your aura, and do that every day, 5G doesn't harm anymore. It's not painful. You don't even get it, that it's there. This is my favorite version of getting out of the field salad. You can use technology to get that hyperspace around you. I've got something here as well, too far away, like dodecahedra with all sorts of things embedded in Tesla coils and whatever. You can do that technically. But once spiritual growth is also on the agenda, my advice would be to do it just by discovering your internal dwells and possibilities to raise your energy and vibration from inside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're only, I guess we're at about an hour and 15 right now. I want to ask you one more thing. I don't see any questions right now in the chat, but I do have a question myself. What do you think is really misunderstood in mainstream science about gravity? And then if we can go into some of the things, if we didn't cover any of the things that you wanted to talk about, if we could go into some of those before we end up in the show.
Yeah, this is easy. Gravity is the gradient of scalar potential. It's a local force. And it's like if you basically just imagine a piece of glass, but not with a optical index that is the same all over the place. Let's say the glass is a bit denser on one end and less dense on the other one. Then the medium itself works like a lens. And this is actually what's happening with the space. You have scalar potential defined in every single point of the space. And if it's getting less dense into one direction, every light that is traveling in this space is actually bent. And if you have matter that is composed out of light that is caught in circular motion patterns around tiny little wormholes, this is every particle. Every particle has its own singularity, and then you have life patterns that are caught in circles around those tiny little singularities, while the energy density of the light caught creates the singularity. So it's kind of self-creating, self-organizing scalar potential. And so if you visualize a particle as circularly flowing light in anisotrope optical medium, you will realize that the light will start to accelerate out of this medium. And this is gravity. It's actually an optical effect in warped space-time.
Right. Interesting.
So this is my basic understanding of gravity, and if you want, it's just the visualization. If you want to have the real math to it, just go to E.T. Whittaker, 1902, 1903. He applied the full equations of Maxwell, did the quaternion calculations on electromagnetism, and could shift his perspective. Maxwell was still basically observing the force fields, taking a general approach to electromagnetism, and then the idea of scalar potential and what happens on that plane was rather abstract. Whittaker took it to the other end and took the perspective from the scalar fields and could show how every force field is actually an interference pattern of different scalar phenomena. So he calculated the material plane out of the scalar realm and could show that everything there is unified in the scalar, that every electromagnetic field, gravity, magnetism, everything is an expression of overlapping, overlaying, morphing scalar fields. And this is the unified field theory everybody is looking for. Just that nobody had the skills at the time when Whittaker published it to make the quaternion calculations. So his theory was completely ignored just because people were too lazy to learn the math.
Yeah.
So this is gravity. It's the gradient of the scalar potential. And the fractal beauty of nature are just scalar potential eddies self-organizing around wormholes. Every being is a wormhole, carries a wormhole inside kind of a peak of high scalar potential. We have this in the heart chakra. When people do heart surgery, there's this tiny little spot of light the surgeon is not allowed to touch, because if he touches it, the human gets killed. So this is our wormhole inside of ourselves, connected to the heart chakra, the inner heart chakra. This is our connection to the divine, and around that, our body comes into existence as a fractal expression of the scalar potential eddy that is forming around this singularity, with a smaller fractal scale being our DNA for every single cell, adding that beauty of shape and color and form to it. But the light body itself, it's like a rainbow. If you look at the colors of the chakras, it's like a rainbow formed by this prisma, giving a material expression to the divine spark in us. It's all one beautiful setup. It's absolutely coherent.
Yeah.
And the material plane is just the last bit and piece of expression of this.
Yeah. It's quite amazing, actually. We have, our creator is just amazing. It's amazing. It amazes me. Maybe that's because I was asleep at one point and didn't see any of it, and then so dramatically saw it one day. I could see it. I don't know how to, I've tried to describe this to people a million times, that I could see the interconnectedness of everything when I was sober. I could see it and feel it and experience it. And it was just, I walked around for months with headphones in my ears, just staring at nature and staring at the animals and staring at the clouds. And people thought I was just, but I just was so connected in. I could see it. I could see God for going my whole life and not even knowing if there was a God or not, and subscribing to different religions because I was lost and I really didn't know what to think. But I felt like I had to pick something, the programming, right? To go from that to, God, I could see it. I could see how it was all connected, and it was all a design, and it was just the most intoxicating feeling. I can't even describe what that was like. Some days I wish I could experience that on the level that I did then, but I would have never been able to get anything done, Harold. I would never been able to start this channel. I would have never been able to do anything in the state of mind I was in at the time. So it was, I don't know, for whatever reason, I was allowed to see that. It was a blessing, but I don't think if it had stuck around, I'd be on some mountaintop meditating. I wouldn't be sitting here doing what I need to be doing to help Gaia and, the movement. So
the The trick is when you see it inside of yourself, not outside of yourself.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it was, wow, I didn't even think of that.
Easy.
So it was my personal,
Hmm?
then I saw it out here. Wow.
The wisdom, the understanding, the perception, the sense for beauty, everything is inside.
Yeah.
And this is the trick of science. They as a premesis said, okay, let's completely cancel out the human spirit as a perceiving instrument.
Yeah.
Let's just rely on technological measurement techniques to be objective. And so they canceled out the most divine source of knowledge we have, which is ourselves, just to force us to keep our eyes in the outside reality, trying to connect everything with logical relationships. And this is stupid because what we need to see is all inside of us.
Right. Wow. Well, that's absolutely beautiful. And I think on that note, that's probably a perfect place. So Harold's, it's 3:30 in the morning, or was when we started, where he's at in Germany. So I just have a couple of announcements before we close the show. What do I have to announce? Because I didn't write it down. I'll be the Keystone Channel is having a New Year's Eve bash on her channel, the Keystone Channel. I'll be over there hosting that with her, having lots of different guests on. It's gonna be a lot of fun for New Year's Day tomorrow. That surprise I was mentioning to you guys that will be out on the 1st, it got delayed by a couple days, so it's gonna be out a few days after the 1st, but it will still be out, and I'll make an announcement that when that releases. Other than that, I will see you guys back here for Space Force News on Sunday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Eastern. And Harold, it's been such a pleasure having you on. Such an amazing conversation, and I'm so glad that this opportunity came. Thank you so much for sharing all this wonderful wisdom with us.
My pleasure.
All right. Good night, everybody. Sorry if I didn't get to a couple of your questions. I will see you guys on Sunday night. Good night.